Good morning, everyone. So, before we start with our discussion for today, let's bow our head for a prayer. So, Father God, we start this new day for new learning. We ask for your guidance. Lead us all the way. Be with us as we continue our discussion. Give us the heart to love and to be kind to one another. Please watch all over our teachers, friends, classmates, children, and families. This all we ask. In Jesus' name, amen. So, good morning once again, everyone. So, before we start with our new discussion, let's have a quick recap our previous discussion. So, the previous topic that we have discussed was about what is transformative education and why it is important. So they have discussed that transformative education is not a new invention. It highlights the importance of acting global citizenship and the need for transformation of our perceptions and interpretations of the world and ourselves. So they have also discussed these three interrelated dimensions of learning according to UNESCO 2019. The very first is the cognitive learning, which refers to acquiring knowledge. Next is the social and emotional learning, which refers to having a sense of belonging to common humanity. And the third is the behavioral learning, which refers to acting responsibly for a more peaceful and sustainable world. So, they have also discussed about transformation. Transformation is called upon the Agenda 2013 and especially SDG 4.7. So it is the change our way of thinking. So, and also they have discussed the innovations. 4.7 roadmap calls for the implementations of transformative education for sustainable development as a lifelong learning process and a public good. So that's it. So now we will go to our discussion for our new topic, which is all about the transformative potential of SDG Target 4.7. So we have here the learning objectives. Learners will able to elucidate transformative potential of SDG Target 4.7. Next, learners will be able to identify the different educations for outlined by SDG Target 4.7. Then, learners will be able to discuss the importance of different educations for. So, what is SDG 4.7? So, SDG 4.7, so it is the Target 7 of Sustainable Development Goal 4. So, it's called Target 4.7. So, it is the education goal. So, offers a transformative vision of education by 2013, ensure that all learners acquire knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including among others, through education for sustainable development and sustainable life, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship and appreciation of cultural diversity and culture's contribution to sustainable development. So, SDG has also different goals. They are they have the goals that in 2013 by 2013 there will be no poverty, no equality. So everyone will have this sustainable life and equal uh, life in the society. So next we have here the education for um, education for sustainable and development and sustainable lifestyle. So before that, so the SDG Target 4.7 outline different educations for. So one of these is the education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyle. So education for sustainable development addresses key sustainable development issues and motives and empowers learners to assess and change their behaviors needed for a more sustainable future. So, meaning learners will have these motivations and should be empowered so that they will be able to change, to adapt the changes, so that they will be able to sustain the future. Next, it is according to UNESCO 2020, Ku and Jorgensen 2021. So, we have here, according to UNESCO, they have these 5 pillars of ESD, or the Educational Sustainable Development. First is the so before that, what is education for sustainable development, or ESD? So meaning it is the learning must be prepare students and learners of all ages to find solution for the challenges of today and the future. Education must be transformative and allow us to make informed discussions and take individual and collective action to change our societies and care for our planet. So, we have here the ESD, the societal transformation, the learning outcomes, the learning content, and the pedagogy of learning environment. So, next is we have here the 5 pillars. The 5 pillars are the learning to know, learning to be, learning to live together, learning to do, learning to transform oneself and society. So, in learning to know, it is the knowledge, values, and skills for respecting and searching for knowledge and wisdom. So, in learning to be, knowledge, values, and skills for personal and family well-being. So, learning to live together, it is the knowledge, values, and skills for international, intercultural, and community cooperation and peace. Then the learning to do, it is the knowledge, values, and skills for active engagement in productive employment and recreation. And lastly, the learning to transform oneself and society. It is the knowledge, values, and skills for transforming attitudes and lifestyles. So we have here also the UNESCO 2012, 2014B, 2021A. ESD is holistic and transformational and encompasses learning content and outcomes, pedagogy, and learning environment itself. So is Gerard and Wells 2017-8. ESD is concept that can be used in different educational settings and offers new pedagogical tools and learning experiences. So, ESD empowers our learners with knowledge, skills, and values and attitudes to take informed and decisions and make responsible actions for environmental integrity, economic viability, and just society. So, it is a lifelong learning. It is a process that integral part of quality education. So, it enhances the cognitive, societal, and emotional behavioral dimensions of learning. So, it is all holistic and transformational. So, it is according to UNESCO. So, next we have here the Hong 2009 and Fagan 2017. ESD has been critic for emphasizing the environmental element of sustainability while placing less focus on social element and global inequalities. And in Laure et al. UNESCO 2000, Laure 2017, it is UNESCO wishes to directly contribute to SDG Target 4.7 by raising awareness, capacity building, strengthening and reorienting education and learning, and implementation of good practices. So it is more in Fagan 2017, it is the sustainability. It is our global awareness and have these social elements that we will be able to aware about global inequalities. And also, it is defined as it is raising our awareness. Of course, it is um, our capacity in building and strengthening and or reorienting education so that it will be aligned and will able to achieve the target that there will be no inequality. Everyone in different level of life will be equal in society and will be have this sustainable lifestyle in the future. So in Laure et al. UNESCO 2005. So UNESCO wishes to directly contribute to SDG Target 4.7 by raising awareness, capacity building, and reorienting education and learning and implementation of good practices in order to offer concrete action for change, such as the roadmap ESD for 2013, wherein it is aligned by the education, will be aligned to have this achieve this roadmap ESD for 2013, wherein everyone will have this sustainable lifestyle and have this sustainable development, and everyone will be able to get out of poverty, have this um, uh, have these anti-discriminations, and everyone will be have this equal treatment in our society. So, in Bern 2017 5355, there are many networks and stakeholders involved in topics of ESD, sometimes also working under its umbrella, even though they are also implementing other types of educations for. So, although there are different definitions or um, different meaning about ESD, it is always aligned for the and different. They have this implementing. They are implementing these different educations for, but the same. It is still aligned. They have this the same goal that there will be no poverty, there will be no inequality in the future, and everyone will be have this environmental awareness, and they will be able to live in a peaceful and uncrowded world in the future. So also, the example of these different stakeholders are the ESD Expert Network and the Education 21 for Switzerland, and the Learning for Sustainable Future Network located in Canada, and Partnership for Education and Research about Responsible Living, and Education for Sustainable and Agency Partnership working in Sweden and Southern Africa. So, even though the mainstream definition of ESD at first glance focused on the environmental pillar of sustainable development, the wider participation of stakeholders from different sectors could benefit in activities under the umbrella of ESD. So that's all about my topic. So let's have this next discussion. Next reporter, the human rights education.
Once again, good morning everyone. My assigned topic is all about human rights education. So what is human rights education? Human rights education is enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, United in Nation in 1948, and also education, training, and information aimed at building a universal culture of human rights. A comprehensive education in human rights not only provides knowledge about human rights and the mechanism that protect them, but also imparts the skills needed to promote, defend, and apply human rights in daily life. Teaching of human rights in the Philippines school is mandated by the Article 2 of 1987 Philippine Constitution, which states that all education institutions shall inculcate patriotism and nationalism, foster love of humanity, and respect for human rights. And simply, human rights education is all learning that develops the knowledge, skills, and values of human rights. So the Article 26 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that education shall be directed to the full development of the human personality and to the strengthening of a respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. And also, in the Article 26, promoting knowledge of human rights and freedom is a fundamental tool to guarantee respect for everyone. UNESCO 2021, which need to be achieved in order to achieve a sustained and just future. So what do you mean by UNESCO? So UNESCO means United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, was founded after World War II on November 16, 1945 to contribute to peace and security. And then the budget 2011, July 2014, Vicar Roch 2019, is the human rights are the heart of the 2030 agenda on and can be understood as one fundamental of transformative education. So the era of 1998 is the historical circumstances demonstrated how violence of human rights depend inequalities, poverty, racism, apprehension, and the violence. And then the budget 2018 Robinson of 2018 is a social and political changes required collective actions. Human rights education offers tools to empower people to be a critical towards the reproduction of privilege and subordination that result in inequalities and threaten sustainable development. And then the Article 2 of United Nations, in the Article 2 is a human rights education and training comprises all educational training, information, awareness, raising and learning activities aimed at promoting universal respect for and observance of a human rights and fundamental freedoms, and those contributing inter alia to prevention of human rights violation and abuses by providing persons with a knowledge, skills, understanding, and developing their attitudes and behaviors to empower them to contribute to the building and promotion of universal culture of human rights. The United Nations Declaration of a Human Rights Education and Training in 2011 defines human rights education as human rights education promotes values, belief, and attitudes shall encourages all individuals to uphold their own rights and those of others. So it develops an understanding to everyone's common responsibility to make human rights a reality in each community. And then the Article 3 of the United Nations is the human rights education is therefore a lifelong educational process in informal and non-formal environment. And then the Article 4 of the United Nations is directed to raising awareness, understanding, and acceptance of universal human rights, understands and principles, and also developing awareness of their own rights and responsibilities in respect of the rights of the others, promoting tolerance and non-discrimination and equality. The Council of Europe understands human rights education as all educational programs and activities that promote equality in human dignity in combination with programs that promote learning, participation, and empowerment of minorities of Brother 2020. And also the Amnesty International 2021 adds that it is fundamental tool for addressing causes of violations of human rights and prevention of human rights abuses, discrimination, promotion of equality, and exchanging the participation of people. The purpose of Amnesty in the International is to form a global community of human rights defender based on the principles of international solidarity, effective action of the individual victim, global coverage, the universality, unity, and indivisibility of human rights, impartiality and independence and democracy and mutual respect. And then the human rights education imparts the core values, attitudes, and skills needed for a more just, equal, and sustainable future. So this is done through activities of major stakeholders such as the United Nations of Brother 2020 is the basis of human rights. Education activities have been laid by the United Nations and institutions through United Nations Declaration of Human Rights Education and Training. And then the Human Rights Office of the Higher Commission is the under the authority of the Human Rights Council, is one of the key promoters in the field of human rights education, which oversees the World Program for Human Rights since 2005. So, 2005 OHCHR 2021. So, what do you mean by OHCHR? Means Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights is leading United Nations entity of human rights. It has the unique mandate provided by the UN General Assembly to promote and protect all human rights for all people. Then another important actor in the Council of Europe, which coordinates the builds bridges between its own work, human rights, education, and other international organization. So UNESCO in the UN High Commissioner for the Human Rights. So the USC, the Fundamental Rights Agency of our European Union, the Brother 2020 is, however, due to the University of Human Rights and also other important stakeholders focus on the human rights education, such as the European Working Land Center, Amnesty International, and International Roman Human Rights Forum, Lucerna. Then Budget 2011, Robinson's All 2018. So to sum up, human rights education encourages critical reflection of past behaviors, thoughts, beliefs, and predispositions about the world, with its focus on equality, human dignity, empowerment, and universal human rights. It equips learners to make deep structural changes in their perception and interpretation of the world and themselves, despite the multitude of definitions and the common goals in learning about learning for and learning through human rights. So, thank you everyone. That's all for my report, and good day.
Good day, everyone, to our dear Professor Sir Fidel Ladra, sir. This is by Rehan A. Abdullah, the reporter. As for my assigned topic, education for gender equality. So, what is gender equality? Gender equality, also known as sexual equality or equality of the sexes, is the state of equal ease of access to resources and opportunities regardless of gender, including economic participation and decision making, and the state of valuing different behaviors, aspirations, and needs equally, regardless of gender. So, what is the main goal of gender equality? The main goal of gender equality is achieved when women, men, girls, and boys have equal rights and conditions and opportunities and power to shape their own lives and contribute to development of society. So it is a matter of equitable distribution of power, influence, and ensure resources in society. So, education for gender equality. Gender equality is a global priority of UNESCO and inextricably linked to its efforts to promote the rights to education and support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. The Education 2030 agenda recognizes that gender equality requires an approach that ensures that girls and boys, women and men not only gain access to and complete education cycles, but are empowered equally and through education. Education for gender equality. Education is essential for the ability to exercise the rights and consequently for women's empowerment. Education enables girls, boys, women, and men to participate in social, economic, and political life and is a base for development of a democratic society. Achieving gender equality in education means that boys and girls will have equal opportunities to realize their human rights and contribute benefits from economic, social, and political development. So let's proceed. SDG Target 4.7, as you read, also identifies education for gender equality as a tool for promoting sustainability despite decades of efforts to highlight the importance of gender equality still receive limited recognition in policies, educational programs, and curricula. UNICEF 2019. As for the SDG Target 4.7 by 2030, ensure all learners acquire knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainability development, including, among others, through education for sustainability development and sustainability lifestyle, human rights, gender equality, promotion of the culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of the culture's contribution to sustainable development. More than and any other target for 4.7, the social, humanistic, and moral purposes of education, it explicitly links education to other SDGs and captures the transformative aspiration of new global development agenda. And curricula programs, educational programs and curricula are the manway knowledge skills to promote sustainable development and global citizenship are typically conveyed. So let's proceed. Education for gender equality encourages an unbiased attitude and seeks to prevent gender discrimination UNESCO 2003 is the 3 as the gender discrimination is globally priority by for UNESCO and inextricably linked of the efforts to promote the right to education and support the achievement of the SDGs. UNESCO work on education and gender is guided by UNESCO's strategy for gender and and through education 2019 to 2025 and time gender action plan 2014 2021 2019 revision. It focuses on system-wide transformation to benefit all learners equally, supports targeted action for girls and women empowerment across these areas of priority, and where there's area of the priority, better data, better policies, and better practices. UNESCO believes that all forms of discrimination based on gender are violation of human rights as well as the significant barrier to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda of Sustainability Development and its sustainable development goals. It equips learners with knowledge, skills as read skills, and values for recognizing the causes of discriminatory gender norms and unequal power relation Hamdani 2020. Boys and girls must feel welcome, a safe and secure learning environment. Government, schools, teachers, and students all have a part to play in ensuring that schools are free of violence and discrimination and provide a gender-sensitive, good quality education. To achieve this, government can develop non-discriminatory curricula. Schools are responsible for the addressing school-related violence and providing comprehensive health education. Teachers should follow professional norms regarding appropriate disciplinary practices and provide unbiased instruction, and students must be in a non-violent, inclusive way. So let's proceed. As you read, gender awareness is poorly integrated into national education programs. Krakow 2020. Actors working in this field are often limited to projects in local areas, e.g., UNICEF Project Gender Socialization in School in Uganda. El Bushra and Smith 2016. United Nations and UN, women have made important progress in advancing gender equality through important agreements. UN Women. It aims as an increasing a general understanding and knowledge about the gender equality or inequality. It is the process which assists in improving understanding of prevailing notions of gender roles and stereotypes, in sharing ideas and development the skills needed for a change in behavior. These include in school, in a measuring can be taken create a gender awareness and in a sensitive students. By an United Nations and UN Women have made important progress in advancing gender equality through important agreement and achieving a gender equality, the essential for the ability to exercise the right and consequently for women's empowerment. Girls or women in a social, economic, and political life is a base development and a gender equality. In advancing, the women have made important progress in advancing gender equality through important agreement because women will have equal opportunities to realize their full human rights and contribute to and benefit from economic, social, cultural, and political development. Let's proceed as you read the transformative potential of education for gender equality does not raise only the importance of equality between all genders, but it can, through proper implementation, benefit sustainable development, human rights, peace, and justice, UN Women ND. In a gender transformative education seeks to utilize all parts of education system to transform stereotypes, attitude, norms, and practices by challenging power relation, rethinking gender norms and binaries, and raising critical consciousness about the root causes of inequality and system of oppression. Education, transformative education, for gender equality education is essential for the ability to exercise the rights, the human rights, the rights of consecutive for women empowerment. Education enables for girls and boys, women and men to participate in social, economic, in development, in a peace, justice, and political life is a base for development for democratic society. And that's all for my assigned topic. Thank you.
Okay, so once again, good morning everyone. This is my assigned topic about education for peace and non-violence. Education for peace and non-violence, the fourth education for peace, the fourth education for as identified and SDG Target 4.7 is education for peace and non-violence. It is understood as means for acquiring knowledge about rights and freedoms, which are considered a fundamental tool to guarantee respect for the rights of all and prevention of conflict and building, according to UNESCO 2021. So, education can create peaceful societies by strengthening the teaching and understanding of shared knowledge, values, attitude, enabling individuals to live together in diverse environments. So why we should educate for peace? So peace education is a primary pillar for preventing armed conflict and violence, saving lives and freeing up limited resources needs. So next slide. Education for peace and non-violence include training skill and information directed towards cultivating a culture of peace based on human rights principles. This education not only provides knowledge about a culture of peace but also infacts the skill and attitude necessary to diffuse and recognize potential conflicts and those needed to actively promote and establish a culture of peace and non-violence according to UNESCO 2008 3. So, like for example, when we was in grade 5 pupils, we go to the Central Element Alyosan Central Elementary School. So, lahat ng bawat paaralan ay doon nagtitipon-tipon na 3 days yon. So, lahat kami, yung iba nagpakita ng kani-kanilang mga kultura like Muslim, Manobo, or IPs. Ay, the same lang. So, yun po. Summer, it was called is Summer Kids Peace Camp. So, that's all my report.
I am Olambay Salik. This is my assigned topic, Education for Peace in Non-Violence. Knowledge of rights and freedom. It is understood as a means for acquiring knowledge about rights and freedoms which are considered a fundamental tool to guarantee respect for rights of all. The United Nations General Assembly has proclaimed it as central to achievement of the rights enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So, this is the two fundamental concept of education for peace and non-violence. Includes training, skills, and information directed towards cultivating a culture of peace based on human rights principles, and this education not only provides knowledge about a culture of peace but also imparts the skills and attitudes necessary to diffuse and recognize potential conflicts and those needed to actively promote and establish a culture of peace and non-violence. So, this is our two fundamental concepts of peace education are used in skills. Respect refers to specific communication, cooperation, and behavioral skills used in conflict situation. So, the next reporter, Biaw Nasser.
Global Citizenship Education. Global citizenship education is a form of civic learning that involves students' active participation in projects that address global issues of social, political, economic, or environmental nature. Global citizenship education is a transformative, lifelong pursuit that involves both formative learning and practical experience. Global citizenship education helps people of all ages respect cultural, gender, faith, and other differences, become more aware of the world beyond our own. Global citizenship is someone who is aware and understand the wider world and their place in it. They take an active role in their community and work with others to make our planet more peaceful and sustainable and fairer. Citizenship education is education that provides the background knowledge necessary to create an ongoing stream of new citizens participating. Why is global citizenship education is important? With global citizenship education, young people are able to solve problems, make a decision, think critically, communicate ideas effectively, and works well with others. This is not only helps them personally and educationally, but eventually professionally as well. Thus, a global education in the classroom is paramount. Global citizenship is someone who is aware of and understands the wider world and their place in it. They take an active role in their community and work with others to make our planet more peaceful, sustainable. The aims of GCED are for active learners of all ages to know their identity and their position within a network of multiple relationships, family, friends, school, locally, community, country, which is the basis for understanding the global dimension of citizenship. Understand the structures of global, national, and locally governments, the right duties and responsibilities of each citizen. Recognize, respect, and appreciate differences and multiple identities to live in harmony with others. Pay attention to others, especially the most vulnerable, and demonstrate empathy and compassion. Acquire values of equity and social justice as well as skills to critically analyze inequalities linked to gender, socioeconomic situation, culture, religion, and age. Acquire an acute awareness, a rigorous moral sense, and critical thinking skills that can be constructively transposed into their daily lives. Acquire the capacity to make decisions, to use the method and tools of problem solving, mediation, negotiation, collaboration, dialogue, and peace building. Familiarize themselves with ethical issues, biodiversity, climate change, consumerism, fair trade, migration, poverty, and wealth, sustainable development, terrorism, war, and etc. Reflect on general impact on their choices and decisions, engage in civic action, social entrepreneurship, active participation, taking personal and social responsibilities. GCED has a lifelong learning respective beginning in early childhood and continuing through each level of education into adulthood. It requires formal and informal approaches, intervention covering both educational programs and extracurricular activities, conventional and unconventional methods to encourage wide participation of learners. Learning topics should be practical, appropriate to age of the learner, as well as to diverse geographic and sociocultural contexts.
Okay, hello guys. This is my assigned topic in global citizenship education. The aims of global education. First is creating global citizen. Creating global citizen, you have to create conscious decision to recognize, learn, and to coexist with people and cultures and build bridges for international collaboration. Second is a global citizen is someone who is aware of the wider world and has a sense of his or her citizen. Okay, to sum it up, they take an active role in their community and work with others to make our planet more peaceful, sustainable, and fairer. And next is respects and values diversity. Contribute to our climate where differences are valued and supported. Apply others' diverse experiences, styles, backgrounds, and perspectives to get results, and sensitive to cultural norms, expectations, and ways of communicating. Next is has an understanding of how the world works. This is just how things are usually. The context is when something happens and there is no other explanation. Next is troubled by social media. So there are issues in and next is troubled by social injustice. There are issues by injustice. First is voting rights. Next is climate justice, healthcare, refugee crisis, racial crisis, injustice, income gap. 7 is gun violence. 8 is hunger and food insecurity. And the last one is inequality. The next is participate in the community at a range of levels, from the local and the global. Generally, a global citizen tries to have an understanding of how the world works and try to stay well informed. They participate in the community at the range of levels, from the local to the global, and are willing to act to make the world a more equitable and sustainable place. And next is willing to act to make the world and a more equitable and sustainable place, takes responsibility for her or his action. So there is a narrow window to limit global warming and adapt a climate impacts. We need radical shifts in the way we using energy, produce food, manage land, and live in cities. And we must invest much more in building residence. Trillions of dollars of stimulus spending for COVID-19 recovery has opened a once in a generation opportunity to reset and reshape our economies, but it must be a green recovery. We must invest in more equitable and sustainable cities that are better prepared for the next crisis. So, historically, cities have been fountains of innovation and leadership. A handful of forward-thinking cities have made breakthrough in recent years, but most cities remain on the path of unequal, unsafe, polluting growth while recreating known failures. So we need to rapidly transform how all cities around the world are built, managed, and experienced. And the last one is feels in ethical responsibility to others around the globe. So what is ethics? So ethics refers to those standards to impose reasonable obligation to refrain from rape, stealing, murder, assault, or standard and fraud. So, to interpret and act upon multiple principles and values according to standard within a given field or context. Okay, yun lang po. And thank you.
So, good day everyone. My topic is all about education for appreciation of cultural diversity and culture's contribution to sustainable development. So, held every year on May 21, the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development celebrates not only the richness of the world uh, world's culture, but also the essential role of intercultural dialogue for achieving peace and sustainable development. So, the United Nations General Assembly first declared this World Day in 2002, following UNESCO's adoption of the 2001 Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity. So, recognizing the need to enhance the potential of culture as a means of achieving prosperity. So, sustainable development and global peaceful coexistence. So, development is not possible without including the appreciation of cultural diversity and culture according to UNESCO of 2021. So, with the adoption in September 2015 of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development by the United Nations. So, and the resolution of the Culture and Sustainable Development adopted by the UN General Assembly in December 2015. So, its importance is identified in the Florence Declaration on Culture. So, the message for the World Day for Cultural Diversity, for Dialogue and Development is more important than ever. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals can best described and achieved by drawing upon the creative potential of the world's diverse cultures and engaging in continuous dialogue to ensure that all members of society benefit the sustainable development. So, the World Day for Cultural Diversity is to the expression and to reflect on how this contribute to dialogue, mutual understanding, and the social, environment, and economic vectors of sustainable development. So, how can cultural diversity contribute to sustainable development? So, the resulting cultural diversity expands choices, nurtures a variety of skills, human and values worldviews, and provides wisdom from the past to inform the future. So, cultural diversity is a mainspring for sustainable development for individuals, the community, and the countries. So, what is the role of education in achieving sustainability? Education for Sustainable Development, or ESD, promotes the development of the knowledge, skills, understanding, values, and actions required to create a sustainable world, which ensures environment protection and conservation, promotes social equity, and encourages economic sustainability. So, according to UNESCO of 2014, achieving inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong learning opportunities requires a dual commitment to investing in culture and creativity for all. So, what is the role of cultural diversity in education? Students feel more confident and safe. Students who learn about different cultures during their education feel more comfortable and safe with those differences later in life. So, this allows them to interact in a wider range of social groups and feel more confident in themselves as well as in their interactions with others. So, diversity recognizes the difference between people and includes different factors such as religion, political orientation, sexual orientation, gender identity, age, race, ethnicity, language, socioeconomic status, and family structure. So, types of cultural diversity in the classroom. The school can do their part to promote policies and procedures for equality, diversity, and inclusion in school. So, humanity has inhabited every corner of the world except Antarctica for centuries. As group of people work and live together, they develop distinctive cultures. So, Local learning, innovation, and development processes and strengthened when new talents and new forms of creativity are nurtured. The last is this can lead to empowerment of women and girls as creators and producers of cultural expression and as citizens participating in cultural life according to UNESCO of 2014 C3, and the other is education for appreciation of cultural diversity and culture's contribution to sustainable development should be integrated into different learning programs through arts education, language, and involvement. So, languages and involvement of cultural stakeholders because of its cross-cutting nature that can help to achieve the SDGs or UNESCO 2014. So that's all my report. Thank you, everyone.
So to sum it up, we have six different educations for. First is education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyle. Second, we have this human rights education. Third, education for gender equality. Fourth, education for peace and nonviolence. Fifth, global citizenship education. Sixth, lastly, we have here the education for appreciation of cultural diversity and culture's contribution to sustainable development. So, in first is education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyle. So, it identifies that ESD is a tool to equip individuals and groups with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes they need to make conscious choices aimed at achieving and preserving a world which both they and future generation will deem to fit to live and work in. It also promotes the values, principles, and practices that help people to respond effectively and confidently in the current and new challenges. And next is the human rights education. So, in human rights education, it was discussed that it is education that encourages critical reflection of past behaviors, thoughts, beliefs, and predispositions about the world. So, with its focus on equality, human dignity, empowerment, and universal human rights, it equips the learners to make deep structural changes in their perceptions and interpretations of the world and themselves. So, despite of multitude of definitions, the common goal of this learning is about learning for and learning through human rights. So, third is the education for gender equality. So, it is an education wherein encourages an unbiased attitude and seeks to prevent gender discrimination. So, it equips learners with knowledge, skills, and values for recognizing the causes of discriminatory gender norms and unequal power relations. So, the transformative potential of education for gender equality does not raise only the importance of equality between genders, all genders, but it is also can it is also through proper implementations, benefit sustainable development, human rights, peace, and justice. So the fourth educations for is the education for peace and nonviolence. So it is understood as means of acquiring knowledge about rights and freedoms of an individual. It is considered as a fundamental tool to guarantee respect for the rights of all. And the education for peace and nonviolence includes training, skills, and information directed towards cultivating a culture of peace based on human rights principles. So this education is not only provides knowledge about culture and peace, but also it imparts the skills and attitudes needed, necessary to diffuse and recognize the potential conflicts and those needed to actively promote and establish a culture of peace and non-violence. So the fifth education to education for is the global citizenship education. So it is an education wherein that open people's eyes and minds to realities of the world, that awakens them to bring about a world of greater justice, equity of human rights for all. And also, it aims to empower learners of all ages to assume active roles both locally and globally in building more peaceful, tolerant, inclusive, and secure societies. And lastly, we have here the education for appreciation of education of cultural diversity and culture's contributions to sustainable development. So, education for appreciation of cultural diversity and culture's contribution to sustainable development should be integrated into different learning programs through arts education, languages, and involvement of cultural stakeholders. Because of its cross-cutting nature that can help achieve the SDGs. Also, it can nurture the skills that are needed for overcoming global challenges and interconnectedness in which we currently live. So, in addition, teachers a teacher has a crucial role in achieving the SDGs, because they are the one who are giving information, giving learnings, additional information, knowledge, and skills towards our learners. So, at a very young age, of course, we should, as a future teacher, we should be knowledgeable enough about what we need to teach and how we teach our learners so that they will be able to have this sustainable lifestyle in the next future, and they will be able to adapt any changes in our societies. So it is not just by giving them informations but also that are based on the book, but also uh, uh, we should teach, we should inform, and we should have this teaching and learning process that uh, our learners will be able to connect on the real world settings we're in, um, so that they will not be struggle in the future. They have this idea what the real world is. So that's all our the report. And again, thank you everyone, and good morning.